They are raising their hand in front of 500 people saying, I think I'm doing something wrong. No one has the guts to do that. Hello and welcome to the Dental Leadership Podcast Summit Edition. We are here in Anaheim today. I'm happy to have a coworker and close friend of mine as a guest today. Welcome, David Howard.
Thank you, Ralph. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, my friend. It is his birthday. We're time stamping this.
That's right. It is my birthday today, and I love nothing more than to work on my birthday and be, to be with friends is a good thing. So this is all working. So today's format or today's questions are built around two things. Number one, as many of you know, David is our director of group practice sales as well as director of partnerships. So I want to get deeper into what he sees in the marketplace right now and give an update from our perspective. And then number two, we want to talk a little bit about the summit, the dental leadership labs that we've had so far this year and how that translates into the summit and what we're doing there. So I'm going to start with a couple of questions for David and then we'll go from there. David, so tell me a little bit about what you have seen in the last 6 to 12 months in the DSO market. What has changed? What has improved? What has gotten worse?
Yeah, I think it's always interesting to look at it from a particular perspective. I happen to travel a lot frequently. I've seen a lot of you guys on the road and on shows. And, consistently, one of the things that we're still hearing is just staff and turnover, right? The ability to have hygienists and to have them in your office, God forbid, at a rate that's affordable and consistent to be able to deliver the type of quality that you need for your patients is always a challenge, Retention of that staff also, once you get them, being for them, to be able to stay there. I'm also seeing a lot of things and hearing things about this kind of like culture, I guess, gap or lag. Practices are having a difficult time in still really establishing the why, I think, of what it takes to have good people and to build really good teams. That can get really expensive, obviously. There's also really, I think, not a lot of targets if you're, doing an acquisition model for practices to be acquired in that sense, which makes, the price or the dollar, continuously high on practices that are available. Those are really the two main things that I'm seeing. Yeah. And obviously, inflation, cost of money is still really high. That's a consistent one. Yeah. Revenue cycle management also constantly comes up, and really understanding how those systems all tie together in a cohesive operational, process.
So you mentioned the let's start at the beginning of what you started with, the issue that they're having, which is securing talent. Yeah. Do you see any improvement or have any meaningful improvements being made of how they are getting their talent, or is it still through word of mouth, through the existing channels? Like, has there anything been identified as a easier, better way, or is it still just a slug?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. It's definitely not shots in the dark. I think people are using the right types of, applicant tracking, really focused workforce management systems that allow to identify prospects earlier in the kind of in their stages. The referrals obviously is still really, really big and really, really significant.
In our industry, that is definitely true.
It's huge. And in the last 12, to 14, really to 24 months, we've also seen a lot of people come from outside of dental and take significant positions because they're just bringing in a fresh perspective on, everything from how the brand should be, presented to the masses, to really how other people work, because a lot of times, even within the most organized DSOs, you still have a lot of like siloing between who knows what type of information and who's talking to who. And I can talk about that firsthand experience as somebody that is looking to, build a bridge between our company, HR for Health, inside of groups, particularly when you're talking north of 20 locations,
Right.
you start to really see those kind of
To
complexities.
be clear,
flush out.
what you're talking about is when they come from outside, they probably come from other healthcare verticals,
Yeah.
but they are non-clinical staff
Right.
that come into key positions
Right.
because they bring the necessary expertise for the role in general, but not in dentists in particular, right?
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
And it's interesting because those people, I was just recently at a conference, those people really have a good perspective on how culture needs to be valued and putting, a real sense of meaningful and tangible ties to the dollar value of what culture is, right? The culture issues, if you have them, directly affect EBITDA, that's where they're going to show up.
Yeah.
And that's even before you're forming that DSO. I've also just been on the conversation of a lot of people that are newly forming groups. A lot of them are coming out of like these family offices.
Yeah.
And the good news is they're wanting to get things set up properly before they actually, go to ground, right?
Yeah.
So, after they've gotten, secure the LOIs and they're getting ready to stand the practice up, they care about these things.
Right. So sorry to jump in. It's like you mentioned culture and the why of what's going on in a company a couple of times now. So I want to go into that for a second. What is it that you feel like, for example, an outsider and or a leadership person that is being brought in specifically for that can affect in a dental practice that is on like the upswing on the growing like phase of their business?
Yeah, well, I think just not coming in with a lot of industry bias, a lot of us that have been around for a while, and I don't want to say it's necessarily jade,
right,
but it's we've had, an experience, if you've been in this industry pre-COVID, to see like kind of the boom and like the shakedown, and then like significant thinning of the practices. The people that I've seen that are coming in that are at that level, they just honestly really have a spirit and an energy that I think is refreshing and needed. They also are not caught up in the politics that can sometimes be inside of the dental service organization mix. And they've been, quite frankly, honest and transparent by saying, hey, I don't know this business and I'm going to do the field work, right? I'm going to get out and talk to the practices, the operators, the regionals, and understand what is happening in real time. Like they're getting their, they're getting their feet wet in a real way.
To be a little blunt, is the hey, we've always done it this way, is being challenged, and that's actually a good thing. And you see improvements there on the DSO side. Any other? Well, before we go to the positive, let's just see, like, and I don't necessarily want to categorize it as positive or negatives, but any other changes you see that you see are a potential threat or issue, problem for DSOs outside of leadership and staffing?
Yeah, I mean, there's always the constant threat of having dental be prioritized in terms of what the patients are seeing and the value that they're seeing in going to the dentist. I don't want to call them necessarily threats, but on the blind sides, just from a DSO perspective, a lot of it, and there have been multiple articles written about different DSOs, positive and not so positive, right? So I think the public's interpretation of what a DSO means, and really just coming into the first time that I've seen in understanding of why DSOs exist and how they can function, and how, ideally they function overall for the greater good, to service the public, I think is a potential blind spot, and not understanding what that looks like, particularly if you're in certain states and certain laws. I mean, we've seen recently, as today, that affect the way things can be classified, how you have to frame certain types of care, how you have to frame your relationship with your associates and with your doctors. I mean, these are real things.
Yeah.
I think the unknown is how much they're going to actually affect people going to those particular practices, and if they're going to make a decision based upon what has been presented, right? It's an optic challenge.
But I think that's a good point, which kind of leads me to my next question to you around this. So for the last couple of years, 3 years really already, there has been I'm going to call it a healthcare revolution within the industry that is built around the AI solutions, right? There's certain specific verticals within the healthcare in general, but in dental in particular, that have been definitely on the forefront for an AI inclusion into both diagnoses, treatment, but now also practice solutions, practice management. So there's been a lot of noise, and I think that there was a lot of confusion on the ownership side, like the dentist ownership side, to say, I don't know what to do and where this is going to lead. And there's always three types, right? Like there's the I'm leading the charge. I'm going to be the first one to invest.
Right.
There's the I'm going to wait, but I see what the first one does, and then I jump in. And then there's the third one that are still on paper.
Yeah.
Right. Like they still haven't digitized their practices. So, have you seen any outcomes that are positive, outcomes that are leading the charge in this that really have an impact for patients? Like, do DSOs talk about this, or are they still just as confused as they were 3 years ago?
Yeah, I think a lot of what I've heard and what I've seen from DSOs is they know that they need to be in the game and are playing the game. And when I mean the game, I mean of how their technology stacks should look like.
Yeah.
A lot of it also, though, is who is going to be responsible for pulling what levers at what time.
Yeah.
A lot of it also is really, driven on what the doctors obviously are saying that they need in terms of being able to perform with the level of full competence and full scope and full skill that they'd like to. One of the other things that I've seen that's been interesting when it comes to the technology is really the people that are kind of like exiting and being able to pass that technology or lack thereof as something that they are aware that needs to be fixed before they actually leave. I actually was sitting next to a woman that was at a practice, she had I think she had 2 or 3 locations, but she was really listening to her daughters tell her how she should be using AI and technology, and that was kind of her trusted source.
Right.
I think there's also a lot of really, really great consultants that are coming into the mix that understand how the technology works and presenting really unique ideas. I see them, kind of also as part of as a crucial part of the mix.
Yeah.
And really, I think DSOs are beyond the fear of it all, because we've seen what great technology can do to provide better clinical outcomes. I think it's just really about getting them to prioritize it in the way that it needs to, and not necessarily, having this like all or none approach.
Yeah. So essentially what you're saying is that you're seeing that they're clearly out of phase 1. They are now heading into phase 2. The DSOs, and for those of you who don't want to be called a DSO, but a multi-group practice or just a regular practice, I get it. But they tend to be on the forefront of change anyway.
Yeah.
So you see a full embrace of that.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay, so let's shift gears, and I'm going to give you the hat of interviewer, and I'm going to be the one who's going to get asked questions. Let's talk about the summit a little bit.
Yeah, let's talk about the Dental Leadership Summit. Let's just give a quick kind of high to low of why the Dental Leadership Summit is important, kind of why it started, and kind of just bring us to where we are today.
Yeah. Great question. By the way, am I the only one who's sliding down? I feel like I'm in my weekend
it's
retreat.
The pillow. It's the lumbar situation.
It's like at my age, now that we know that it's my birthday, it's like I should actually sit up straight. Great question. So look, we have gone through 11 years, a total of 12 events with the Dental Leadership Summit. And David, you have been part of this for many years before we were even at HR for Health, and you became the HR for Health Dental Leadership Summit. We have always prided ourselves in the fact that we have the finger on the pulse of what our attendees need and want from events. And so originally when we started, we had a back in the conference room, small group of people with like max 3 speakers, talk about subject matters that are important to a emerging DSO, someone that has the desire to go from 5 to 7 to 9 to 10 to 20 locations, and always had great speakers. And so the content was always key for us. I wish I could say that I had the brilliant idea and foresight of building a large DSO style event. I don't. Right? Like we just pinned our ears back, and the industry changed so drastically that we grew kind of by happenstance. Right. And so all of a sudden we had like 40, 50 speakers at some point with 500, 600, 700 attendees every year. So the core of what has been our mission completely changed. Because there was such a large audience that was interested in what we were doing. In the last 2 or 3 years, we have seen a saturation of our style of events. And I look at this not as competition. I look at it as like the best form of copying and form of compliments. Right? Like people do what we found successful because they see it as a success as well. So frankly, we made the decision or we are looking at this now differently because we listen to our audience, and we are today kind of moving ever more rapidly back to a workshop style summit that allows us to connect with our audience better. And by us, I mean our speakers, the topics that they bring to the event, and how we are going to have this done. So no more endless panels of people voicing their opinions and people just sitting in the back. We really have workshop style with like pen and paper, Q&As and problem solving for their events today. So that's where we are.
And I think it's interesting you bring up a good point, Ralph, that it's the workshop, right? Like as a leadership summit, there are times when you kind of need to put your head down and really understand what it is that you need to work on, specifically when it comes to, for us, how all of the pieces of the puzzle really fit together. As it pertains to understanding who your people are, how your people are best working, and we are in the business of providing compliance and workforce management and those types of solutions. What do you think it is about getting people together in a smaller room or smaller type of environment and having that exchange that just allows for just a better takeaway, right? More of a reason for you to leave your busy practice and operation to participate.
So I think in 2 words, it's comfort and trust. Meaning when someone feels comfortable in an environment and they trust the fellow man, woman who is sitting next to them, they open up with questions that allows the leader, the speaker, the gal or guy at the front of the stage to answer questions that are meaningful to the audience members. When you sit in an audience of 500 attendees with 3 talking heads on a panel, they talk about the things that they're being asked by the moderator.
Right.
When you're in a room of 35, 40 people, and you have a session that elicits questions, and someone raises their hand and goes, this is how I'm doing it. Am I doing this wrong? And for someone to have the guts to ask that, they are much more likely to do this in a setting where people are are comfortable with one another.
Right.
Then in a room that is dark, where the lights are dark and the spotlights are bright,
Yeah.
and they're raising their hand in front of 500 people saying, I think I'm doing something wrong. Guess what's not happening?
Right.
No one has the guts to do that.
Yeah.
So that's why we're going back to that style.
Yeah, yeah, and to really kind of back that up as somebody that's been there from when it started and seeing to where it's now. I also think we'd be remiss if we don't talk about how the Leadership Labs has allowed us to really proof our concept out for the summit.
Yeah.
Can you just share a little bit with our audience about how the Leadership Labs lead and built up to the summit and really have helped us put those changes, as we're moving this at scale in real time at work and be highly effective and interactive?
Yeah. So I think that's a very important stepping stone for us. So for those of you who have not been to one of our labs, we actually have one scheduled in Dallas in June. Go to the dentalleadershipsummit.com website and the link there will explain to you what it is and where it is and who we're partnering with. But to answer your question specifically, the concept around that is that we bring in a subject matter expert on a topic that is a problem issue, a concern for the emerging DSOs that they on their own have a really hard time to overcome. Yeah. And so what we learned and what we are seeing is that environment drives focus on solutions.
Yeah.
And we have been able to, we've been very lucky that we've had really, really industry heavy hitters to come in and provide insight, both larger DSO CEOs that are willing to share their story, outside of the industry, subject matter experts on marketing, on finance, et cetera, to really give their insight and then walk into it, and which then led us to a very interesting, I'm going to say, agenda design. Yeah, and I'll just in a very blunt way advertise what we're doing. So I'm happy to say that Pat Bauer from Heartland Dental and I go way back. He, as a matter of fact, was the first speaker, the first guest speaker we ever had 11 years ago at the Dental Leadership Summit. Like I said, in the back room of a conference room. So he is speaking again this year. He's a keynote speaker. He's essentially kicking off our event on the 16th of September, and what we're focusing on with him is what you talked about earlier, which is a problem, right? Which is the leadership style and making sure that people understand the why they're doing what they're doing. Yeah. So and yes, Heartland is a giant DSO that has a lot of things figured out. But if you talk to Pat, he will be the first one to tell you there's also a lot of problems they still have to solve. Right, you're right. And he will tell you. Very transparent. Yeah, he is, and that is why we love having him. Yeah. Right. And then based on that, we're doing the next thing, which is what you were addressing earlier, which is what are trends and how are people using technology and how are they making a return on investment while serving their patient base. And so I'm super excited that we have actually two businesses where they're doing a not just a product review, but a real review of what it takes for business to implement that. Right. So we're having Vivardis there with Curodont, their product that Heartland is using. Their clinical director from Heartland will be there. We'll discuss their implementation, the duality of all the people involved and what they need to do, and the insight of what to do, what not to do, the problems they have to solve. So, for example, I thought, okay, great, we'll have Heartland and we have someone from Vivardis on, and then we had the CEO of Heartland say, well, that's technically not right. We also are working with Videa Health, who providing us with this other very important tool to manage our team to then apply the technology that we want them to succeed in for our patients to have the best possible outcome. And I'm like, well, isn't that the perfect workshop? Yeah. Right? And so that is how we came to a workshop idea, right?
Right.
Again, so we don't want to just say, buy this, do that. No. That's not what this is about.
Yeah.
Yes, there will be companies there, obviously, duh. We are in an industry that is driven by product implementation. But what it is like, it's the how.
Yeah.
It's the why. It's the what to do and what not to do.
Yeah.
How are patient outcomes improved by doing that? And having those 3 companies that are truly world-class businesses at our summit this year is what sets us apart from everybody else.
Yeah, I think it's important also to note, Ralph, if you could touch on that as well, that because when we throw out the names of some of these groups and these organizations that have thousands of locations, right?
Yeah.
There's also though very much a talking point and a story and actually action items and perspective to be shared from those groups for the emerging groups, people that may have 2 to 30 locations. Can you talk about how, it's still very much relevant and germane to have those people at the summit and what they will glean from it? Because it's not just someone talking from, a 30,000 foot view that has different problems than yours.
Yeah.
This is an actual back to basics of, yes, I'm going to tell you in the perspective of where you are right now, regardless of size. Can you just talk about how that kind of translates?
Yeah.
For us also?
So look, you guys, I know that there is an intimidation factor when you're talking about the size of some of these organizations and the amount of volume that they're driving. But fact is, and no one should forget this, everybody has to start somewhere. And you start at the first step in one practice.
Yeah.
Even Heartland does that.
Yeah.
Right? And so they have to overcome the same problems you as a 3-location dental practice has to overcome today.
Yeah.
And that is really why we're doing this. They have essentially plowed the field for you and are willing to share their insights with what they did poorly, what they did well, and what works really, really great for their patients. So that is why this is of such value to an emerging DSO, to someone who has 3, 5, 10 locations, where really every dollar investment is important, right? So that is where I think the connection lies, and where we really show benefit and or value to these emerging DSOs.
Yeah.
Because everybody has to start somewhere, and this is the place, right? And this is how. Might as well learn from people who are willing to share the information with you.
Right. Can we talk a little bit about, because this is kind of where my flag is also planted in addition to on the DSO side, partners and how partners are such a crucial part. And this is, regardless, just to be frank, of partners that are sponsoring or not sponsoring. And we really hold a position of not everything is transactional.
Yeah.
Some things obviously need to be, but it always is fair and equitable. And I'm, personally very, very much focused on partner synergy and getting that right, and being able to see real wins and putting some numbers on the board in ways that we can service and support. Can you talk about how partners are involved in the summit, or what makes our partnership involvement in the summit different?
So I can't. So let me talk about this in 2 ways. One is we search for the best subject matter experts we can find to help address a problem. That's our number one, regardless of who they are, how much money they have, what product they have, what are they a sponsor or are they not a sponsor? So that's number one. Number one is, does your key to this solution fit? And can you unlock information for our attendees? So that's number one. So I'll give you 2 examples on where we see this. We have as 2 other speakers and workshop leaders. We have someone like Jill Nesbitt. Anybody who is listening to us knows Jill Nesbitt. Jill Nesbitt is awesome. She is deeply ingrained in helping DSOs implement their new technologies and make an ROI on it, because you have a large capital investment. And if you're honest with yourself, you don't know how to implement it effectively and fast. She is an absolute industry insider who you need to listen to.
Yeah.
So she's on stage. She's running a podcast. Right? Like that's an example. The second one is we are bringing someone in from the outside.
Yeah.
We have met and worked with an industry outsider who is the chief development officer for a large orthopedic group on the East Coast, his name is Blair Primus. He will lead a marketing direction and talk about how the patient flow in today's social media world has to function efficiently, effectively for you to have sustainable growth of new and existing patients to come back in a way to do this, where to place your practice locations, how to do all. Those are two examples of people who are helping you solve problems that we found are world-class leaders in their field to help you as a DSO get answers.
Right.
Now, let me give you other examples and bigger partners that we're working with. Look, we've had the pleasure to work with a law firm like Dykema and other law firms that bring in a legal expertise, not just knowing the law, but also having done hundreds, if not thousands of transactions in the last couple of years. They bring wealth of knowledge and an amount of insight knowledge that they're willing to share on stage. Right? Like it is invaluable to have someone like that in a workshop where you can go, I'm sorry, I don't know what this means. Right. Like so that is those are examples on partnerships that we have fostered that we feel are not just beneficial to us. As a matter of fact, they're secondarily beneficial to us. They're primarily beneficial for our audience. Right. So those are a couple of examples that I would say stand out.
Yeah. Well, this is really, really good. Is anything else that you want to add or want to give more color to in regards to the summit, like the rest of this year, how it's looking, and when people are kind of, finalizing their schedules and priorities of how and where they need to be and how they need to participate, right? Yeah. Because there's a lot of, there's a lot of things that you could go to and could do and could participate in. Anything you want to
So I think that this is a good way to end. Like I'm really appreciative of you, the audience, and I know what it takes for you to take time away from your practice and your business to come to an event in the middle of September in Austin, Texas, and spend 3 days with your colleagues and like-minded business leaders and learn from one another. I make it my absolute goal to make sure that we both have a quality event with quality speakers for you to have the ability to learn and get insights that you don't get anywhere else. That is what is my mission, what is our mission, to make sure that you feel that this is value add for you. So that's my mission for you as an audience member. I really appreciate feedback. The only way we can get better, the only way we can improve is for you to tell us what your problems are, for us to then get more insightful speakers, insightful solutions, and workshops going. So the ongoing dialogue, the reason why we're doing this here is for you to get the information, digest the information, and then have an opinion. And it can be a good opinion or a bad opinion. I don't care. Trust me, we can take it. The idea is that what we want is for you to have that experience that is positive, that is insightful, and you go home with an application that you can utilize in your practice to succeed. So let me just do the formalities, everybody, in case you don't know. So go to dentalleadershipsummit.com. You sign up and register as an attendee. We are in Austin, Texas. It is September 16 through 18. We're starting on that Wednesday early morning with a couple of workshops, which are very exciting.
You don't want to miss that.
Yeah, you'll see what who the speakers are because the speakers are already listed on our site. We then have a mega first day, like I said, on Wednesday afternoon. Thursday is a heavy workshop day with some main stage activity. We are in a beautiful resort outside of Austin, Hyatt Lost Pines. So there's a lot of activity that is scheduled for both in the classroom, but also outside.
Yeah.
So I really am excited to welcome you for this year's Leadership Summit.
Awesome. Ralph, we really appreciate it, and we appreciate you guys and tuning in to us. You always can reach us. We're available, and we're really here to serve and just to be, really kind of that beacon and that voice of how people look at summits, our labs. And it's really something special, and I'm really honored and excited to be a part of it, and to have Ralph here as our Chief Operating Officer at HR for Health, and really being able to deliver. So we're super excited about it. Looking forward to hear from you guys and the conversations to come, and to continue leading up to Summit.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.